Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Randall. This is the McClures. We react, review, make fun of, laugh at stuff over here. We're sponsored by McClures.store. You can get quality American products, help the channel, help America. Links down in the description. We're going to be checking out a news article on Breitbart today. We don't read much Breitbart these days. But I did come across this article and I wanted to take a look at it with you guys. So Western powers blocked the ceasefire early in the Ukraine war, says former Israeli Prime Minister. We can't watch the video. I did click on the video earlier to check it out, see how long it was and that kind of stuff. And from what I could gather, it's not even in English. But we are going to go through the story here and take a look at this craziness. So Naftali Bennett, the Prime Minister of Israel, towards the start of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year, says the West blocked a ceasefire he was helping to broker early in the war. Bennett, who was Prime Minister and then alternate Prime Minister in Israel during a confusing period of coalition politics prior to the return of Benjamin Netanyahu as head of the government in December, there was a good chance of reaching a ceasefire, says former Prime Minister, before Western powers curbed, aka blocked, negotiations in a wide-ranging interview uploaded to YouTube. Now, Israel is one of a number of states traditionally seen as being allied with the West, along with the likes of India and Turkey. They played little to no part in efforts to support the Ukrainian military or engage in any sanctions war with Russia. Bennett explaining that while the Americans expect that we all rally for Ukraine, this would not necessarily have been in Israel's interest. Just like it's not in America's interest to side with Ukraine either. Our government just doesn't do what's in America's best interest. Apparently, Israel cares about Israel. By way of example, Bennett cited Israeli interests in Syria, where once or twice a week we attack the Iranian presence. Russia, the superpower, has the S-300 there, and if they press the button, Israeli pilots will fall. Okay. So Russia's allowing Israel to bomb Syria a couple times a week. So who will save them? Biden, Zelensky? It would have been my problem, he said, having earlier suggested that he had made sure that Israel would have free reign in Syria during his first in-person meeting with President Vladimir Putin, an ally of the Syrian and Iranian governments, prior to a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. What do you think that conversation looks like? You know what we're capable of, right? Make sure we're not restricted going into Syria. Let's make sure. So my focus is on Israel's interest, his people, explaining why he chose to position himself as a more non-aligned mediator between Putin and Zelensky after the outbreak of hostilities, and claiming that without Western interference, his efforts might have succeeded. Your efforts would have succeeded without Western interference because little Zelensky wouldn't be prancing around in sweaters begging for money everywhere if Biden didn't give him the go-ahead, bro. So Breitbart in London says, I asked what's up with this. Are you planning to kill Zelensky? He said, I won't kill Zelensky. And then said to him, I have to understand that you're giving me your word that you won't kill Zelensky. He said, I'm not going to kill Zelensky. Okay. So far he's kept that. He hasn't killed Zelensky, I guess. Alright, now perhaps one of the more embarrassing claims made by Bennett with respect to the early period of the war is that he personally secured a guarantee from Putin that he would not kill President Vladimir Zelensky, with the Ukrainian leader alleging in a secret bunker before his promise was made. Only after Bennett informed Zelensky of his gentleman's agreement by WhatsApp or Telegram, the Israeli claimed, did the Ukrainian go to his office and film himself there on his phone saying, I'm not afraid. That's absolutely hilarious. Uh, we should go back and watch that video now with some context. Um, of greater geopolitical consequence, however, has been its account of his efforts to mediate a ceasefire between the two sides, which saw him fly into Russia and then Germany, despite having previously made a point of never setting foot in Germany because of the Holocaust, in search of a compromise agreement. Bennett said that he had approached U.S. President Joe Biden, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, the triple duo of retardism, before becoming a pipeline for negotiations between Putin and Zelensky, that everything was fully coordinated with Biden, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Prime Minister Boris Johnson of Britain, Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany, who was said to be very distressed by the impact of the war on his country's supply of Russian gas. Now, Boris Johnson adopted this aggressive line. Macron and Scholz were more pragmatic, and Biden was both, Bennett recalled, saying that it was his impression that Putin and Zelensky both very much wanted a ceasefire and made significant concessions. It was Ukraine's backers, Bennett suggested, that proved to be the stumbling block, with there being a decision by the West to keep striking Putin, despite his own belief, at least at the time, that a ceasefire was desirable. I turn to America in this regard. I don't do as I please. Anything I did was coordinated down to the last detail with the U.S., Germany, and France, he said, and his interviewer breaking in an effort to cut to the chase. So they blocked it, he asked. Basically, yes, they blocked it, and I thought they were wrong. In retrospect, it's too soon to know, Bennett confirmed. Now, Bennett attempted to give a fair hearing to this alleged move by the West to block a ceasefire, noting the downside of the war going on, including the casualties on both sides, rising energy costs, impact on food exports to the Middle East, Ukraine and Russia both being from major food producers, and the potential of a renewed migrant crisis in Europe if Africa, for example, is gripped by hunger, but conceding that Western governments may have other legitimate considerations. Western governments have other legitimate considerations. They would like to still fund and smuggle and launder money through Ukraine. They would like to still use Ukraine as a little way to poke at Putin. And they would also like to utilize his country to set up secret labs to do crazy experiments that none of the citizens of their countries want happening in their country. So yeah, they have lots of interest in Ukraine. So President Biden, he created an alliance via an aggressor in the general perception, and this reflects on other arenas such as China, Taiwan, and there are consensus, Bennett said, suggesting that leaders of America, among other Western powers, were anxious to avoid an outcome that could be interpreted as rewarding Putin for imperialism. Oh my God, there's so many things wrong. So many things wrong with this freaking article. So I have one claim. I claim that there was a good chance of reaching a ceasefire had they not curbed it, Bennett said, while conceding that he could not say for sure whether they will prove to have been right or wrong to have done so over the long term. Maybe a ceasefire would have conveyed the wrong message to other countries. So he's still being a politician, still curbing his answer. Obviously, he's butthurt. Netanyahu's back in the office, and this is throwing a little shade, for sure. But at least somebody going on record with some clout, saying what we've all said the whole time. This war never needed to happen. If Trump was in office, it wouldn't have. Because Biden wanted it to. So did that. Who's the only guy with worse hair than Trump? What's that guy's name? They just mentioned it earlier. I'm drawing a blank. From my understanding, The UK guy, I think. From my understanding, he goes to Ukraine and tells Zelensky, basically, no, you're going to war, dude. He was like, all right, well, you send me the bullets and I'll make sure to leave the country to go raise money while I send the young people to go, while I send out my Nazis to go kill Christians. Crazy world we're living in. America is now providing arms to Nazis to shoot Christians. Okay. Interesting. So surprisingly, Israel expressed a certain sympathy, or at least an understanding, of Putin's hostility towards NATO expanding into countries surrounding Russia after the Cold War, noting that on a side note, the Americans have had centuries-old doctrine called the Monroe Doctrine, whereby the hegemony over the Western Hemisphere, North and South America, belonged to the USA. And as early as 200 years ago, they didn't want France and Britain there. Don't come here. And to a degree, that's Putin's perception. Don't come here. This is my backyard, he explained. Yeah, that's my thing. Like, you can't fault Putin for protecting his country. So if enemies of yours are trying to put arms on your border and block off your supply chains and screw over your people, what are you supposed to do? So we kind of pushed him into a corner. There are obviously two sides to him, Bennett said, but stressed that he was not denying the other side. The Israelis also said that Putin had become implacable, I guess. I can't read today. I'm retarded. I need to not smoke before streams, apparently. Opposed to meeting with Zelensky when he passed on the request from the Ukrainian for a... What is that? French? I don't even know what that means. What are we doing with this article? He was the nicest man up to then, and he turned cold, Bennett recalled, saying that the Russian denounced the Ukrainian government as Nazis and warmongers and ruled out a summit. Okay, so Putin was opposed to meeting with Zelensky. He passed on the request from the Ukrainians prior to the invasion. He was the nicest man up till then, but his gaze turned cold, Bennett recalled, saying that the Russian denounced the Ukrainian government as Nazis and warmongers and ruled out a summit. Well, they are Nazis, and they did want war because they were listening to the people who put the... Zelensky was put in power by the West, so he just said, well, what do we do? What do I do? And they said, we're going to pretend we don't want you to, but we want you to, so get ready. So that's when they went around and destroyed all their secret labs and shit. Quote unquote. He said the Great Patriotic War, as the Russian term it, is the key to Putin's identity, and that he built a rapport with the Russian leader by voicing the truth that the main force that defeated the Nazis, making no mistake, was the USSR, the Red Army, while diplomatically glossing over the fact that the Soviets had previously allied to the Nazis and invaded Poland along with them in 1939. In terms of Israeli policy on the war, Bennett said that he thought Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bibi, had refrained from attacking him over his approach while in opposition because he agreed it was a very intelligent policy. This included, in addition to positioning himself as a mediator, providing Ukraine with humanitarian aid but not weapons, a position that has also been adopted by the Hungarian government, which is the position we should have taken as well. If you want some food and blankets. We talk shit on, or I've talked shit on Obama for sending food and blankets and not missiles. And we shouted out Trump for sending them heavy arms to prove that he's against Putin. But I don't think none of that was the right call. I don't think we should have been against Putin. We should have been against Ukraine's involvement with NATO and stirring the fucking pot. All this talk of being on the right side of history, I get it, but I have a national need to consider, Bennett explained, stressing that he has a responsibility to think of the Jews in Russia and Ukraine and the potential impact of more anti-Russian posture on them, in addition to aforementioned considerations such as Israeli operations in Syria. The policy was right. It led Israel safely for 10 months to where it is now, he said, adding that if Netanyahu decides to pursue a different policy, in light of changing circumstances, any change is legitimate. So he definitely played the politician role even in the interview. Kind of covered both sides of the coin, so to speak. But like I said, at least it's a person of clout actually putting out there what everybody's been saying the whole time, is that Biden wanted this war. You could speculate 1,000 different reasons why he wanted the war. I think it's to hide all his shady business deals with his son, all the shit on the laptop, all the stuff with the fake impeachment of Trump's second fake impeachment, I think was also possibly a setup with the help of the Ukrainian government. So, who knows? Who knows? Crazy stuff going on in the world, though. Crazy stuff going on in the world. And while they got everybody distracted over here looking at Ukraine and Putin, who we should actually be worried about, you know, the guys flying spy balloons over the country, we're not even talking about them. Not even talking about them. All right, guys. Appreciate you stopping by for that one. I know it was a little long for a news one, but get over it. You could have clicked off at whatever point. If you're still here, you're here. I appreciate it. McClure's.store is where you can support the channel. Links down in the description. We sell quality American products. It helps me, helps America. Shop there first. If we don't have it, then go buy some Chinese crap. We're live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 3:30 to 5:30 on Rumble. Come hang out with us. I appreciate it, guys. Take care.